Every single day, you make a transaction. You swipe your card, tap your phone, transfer money with a single touch. Simple, right? But what if I told you that simple action is part of the most sophisticated illusion ever created? One that's been quietly draining wealth from your wallet for over a century. Welcome to Unseen World. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the banking system, the one they never taught you about in school, because what you think you know about money, that's exactly what they want you to think. Let's start with a simple question. When you deposit $1,000 in your bank account, where does that money go? If you answered into the vault, you're not just wrong, you're exactly where the system wants you. That money, it doesn't stay in any vault. In fact, it barely exists at all. To understand how deep this goes, we need to travel back to November 1910 to a private island off the coast of Georgia, Jekyll Island, a place so exclusive, so secretive, that what happened there would reshape the entire global economy and your wallet forever. Under the cover of darkness, 7 men arrived separately, using only first names to avoid recognition. These weren't ordinary men. They represented 1/4 of the world's wealth. Senator Nelson, Frank Vanderlip from National City Bank, Henry Davison from JP Morgan, Paul Warburg, a partner in Kuhn Loeb & Company. Their mission? To draft the blueprint for a central banking system that would give them control over America's money supply. 3 years later, on December 23, 1913, while most of Congress had left for Christmas vacation, the Federal Reserve Act was passed. President Woodrow Wilson signed it into law. Later, he would write, "I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country." What had he done? He'd given a private consortium of banks the power to create money out of thin air. Here's how the magic trick works. It's called Fractional Reserve Banking, and it's brilliantly simple. When you deposit $1,000, the bank is required to keep only a fraction, let's say 10% or $100. The other $900, they can loan out. But here's the trick. Your account still shows $1,000. That $900 they loaned out, it gets deposited in another account. Now that bank can loan out 90% of that. The cycle continues. The multiplier effect. From your initial $1,000, the banking system can create up to $10,000 in loans, money that didn't exist before, money created not by printing presses, but by keyboard strokes. This is the multiplier effect, and it's the foundation of modern banking. Your $1,000 becomes $10,000, and the banks, they collect interest on all of it. The digital transformation. For decades, this system relied on physical cash and paper ledgers. But then came the digital revolution. In the 1970s, computers entered banking. By the 1990s, ATMs were everywhere. The 2000s brought online banking. Today, most money never exists as physical currency. It's just numbers on screens changing with each transaction. This made the illusion perfect, because how do you question something you can't even see? The invisible transaction. Every time you tap your phone to pay for coffee, your transaction travels through a vast network, from your phone to payment processors, through banking networks, across international financial systems, and back, all in less than 3 seconds. But in that journey, your money touches dozens of institutions, each taking microscopic cuts. A fraction of a cent here, a processing fee there. Multiply that by billions of transactions daily, the invisible tax we all pay. This house of cards has collapsed before. 1929, the Great Depression, sparked by bank failures and panic withdrawals. 2008, the housing crisis, when banks created money from nothing, packaged it as securities, and when it all fell apart, millions lost their homes. 2023, Silicon Valley Bank, the second largest bank failure in US history. Each time, regular people paid the price. Each time, the system said, "Trust us, this won't happen again." But here's what really happened in 2008. The banks that created the crisis, they were deemed too big to fail. The government, using your tax dollars, gave them $700 billion. Not to help homeowners, not to help the unemployed, to help the banks that caused the problem. They called it a bailout. Others called it the biggest wealth transfer in history, from the many to the few. Meanwhile, there's another way your wallet gets hacked, one so gradual you barely notice it: inflation. In 1970, a gallon of milk cost $1.06. Today, $4. A new car in 1970, $3,000. Today, $48,000. Your grandparents' house, $23,000. That same house today, over $400,000. But your wages, they haven't kept pace, not even close. The quantitative easing illusion. After 2008, central banks introduced a new term, quantitative easing, a fancy phrase for printing massive amounts of money. The Federal Reserve created over $4 trillion. During COVID, another $4 trillion. Where did this money go? The official story says it stimulated the economy. The reality, it inflated asset prices, stocks, real estate, investments, things the wealthy own. Your salary didn't inflate. Your savings didn't inflate. But everything you need to buy did. It's not a bug, it's the design. The interest rate puppet strings. The Federal Reserve controls interest rates, the price of borrowing money. When they raise rates, your mortgage costs more. Your credit card interest climbs. Car loans become expensive. When they lower rates, the wealthy borrow cheap money to buy assets, making those assets more expensive for you. Either way, you lose. They call it monetary policy, but who does it really serve? Then there's your credit score, a 3-digit number that determines your financial life. Miss one payment, it drops. Apply for too much credit, it drops. Don't use enough credit, believe it or not, it drops. This score determines if you can buy a house, rent an apartment, sometimes even get a job. It's a system of control dressed up as consumer protection. And every transaction, every payment, every financial move you make feeds into this permanent record. This is why Bitcoin was created in 2009. An anonymous programmer, Satoshi Nakamoto, saw the 2008 crisis and designed an alternative: money without banks, without central control, without the ability to print unlimited supply. The first Bitcoin block contained a message: Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. It was a declaration: the old system is broken. Whether you believe in cryptocurrency or not, its very existence is a threat to centralized banking power. Blockchain technology offers something revolutionary: transparency. Every transaction recorded permanently, publicly, immutably. Compare that to traditional banking, where central banks can create money in secret, where the fractional reserve percentage can change without your knowledge, where your transactions are private from you but visible to every institution with access. The question isn't which system is perfect, it's which system gives you more control. But the establishment isn't standing still. Central banks worldwide are developing CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. They promise convenience, efficiency, security, but look deeper. A CBDC gives governments complete visibility into every transaction, every purchase you make, every payment you receive. And more concerning, the ability to control your spending, expiration dates on money, restrictions on what you can buy, freeze your account without a court order. This isn't speculation, it's in the patents and white papers. The financial education gap. Here's perhaps the most insidious part. None of this is taught in schools. You learn algebra, which you'll likely never use. You memorize dates of historical battles. But how banks create money, how inflation works, how to read a mortgage contract? Silence. This isn't an accident. A financially illiterate population is easier to control, easier to profit from. Knowledge is power, and they prefer you powerless. Instead, you're taught to take on debt. Student loans to get educated, credit cards for emergencies, car loans because everyone finances, mortgages because that's how you buy a home. By 25, the average American has over $40,000 in debt. By 40, over $90,000. You spend your life paying interest, money created from nothing to banks that never had it in the first place. It's not a bug, it's the design. The offshore banking havens. Meanwhile, the wealthy play by different rules. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, Panama, Switzerland, trusts and shell companies, tax havens where trillions, yes, trillions of dollars sit untaxed. The Paradise Papers, the Panama Papers, these leaks revealed a parallel financial system, one where the rules that apply to you simply don't exist. One system for the masses, another for the class. The wealth transfer, the result, the largest wealth gap in modern history. In 1980, the top 1% held 23% of America's wealth. Today, they hold 35%. The bottom 50%, their share dropped from 4% to just 2%. This isn't natural market forces. This is systemic design. Every policy, every rule, every mechanism of the financial system has been optimized for wealth extraction, from your wallet to theirs. But there's hope in the alternatives growing in the shadows. Credit unions that operate for members, not profits. Community banks that invest locally. Peer-to-peer lending platforms. Local currencies that keep wealth circulating in communities. These aren't theoretical. They're working right now for millions who've chosen to opt out of the traditional system. The power structure wants you to believe there's no alternative. That's the biggest lie of all. The first step to taking back control is awareness. Understanding how the game is rigged doesn't make you powerless. It makes you dangerous to those who profit from your ignorance. Every person who learns how money is really created, how the system really works, becomes impossible to fully control. That's why they don't teach this. That's why mentioning it makes you sound like a conspiracy theorist. But look around. Is your financial situation improving or declining? Are you moving forward or treading water? The system is working exactly as designed. The question is, for whom? And here's the big question for the unseen world community. If you could change one thing about the financial system, what would it be? Central bank transparency? Financial education in schools? Breaking up too big to fail banks? Cryptocurrency adoption? Let's build that conversation in the comments below. Your wallet has been hacked, not by criminals, but by the system itself. The good news, now you know, and knowledge, as they say, is the first form of wealth they can't take from you. This is Unseen World. Question everything.